afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Gregory Leslie. I'm here to introduce you to the Jane and Finch Way program. The Jane and Finch Way program is a collaborative, bi-weekly mental health mentor project program. It's funded by Ontario Health. The program is in collaboration between York University's Faculty of Education, Black Creek Community Health Center, Educare Self-Care Studio, Learning Beyond Adversity, better known as LBA. And the program is meant to learn lessons to mitigate and implement and replicate for other mental health projects. When we talk to the youth in the program to get a sense about what mental health means to them, they said most people think mental health is serious. However, they believe that most people don't understand or know what mental health is. So they believe that most people don't even realize that they have mental health. They think that most people end up in the justice system with mental health because they're perceived as dangerous. People with mental health are usually marginalized, and people with mental health are usually face a lot of stigma because they're misunderstood and displaced. However, the facts about mental health are historically the Black community has been placed at a disadvantage when it comes to mental health. Given to issues of enslavement, trauma, oppression, colonialism, racism, stigma, which extends and its impacts are even felt up to today. Due to issues like this, the average amount of waiting times for individuals in the Black community span up to 16 months, whereas in the white community or during the privileged community, it's only about 7 to 6 months. 38% of the Black community feel like that they would participate in service, but they don't know where to access mental health services. 60% said that they would also participate in services, but they're not able to find a Black professional that looks like them, that understands some of those cultural values, some of those nuances that culture has to offer, and to be able to also give them the diagnostics that they need. They believe that they're underserved when it comes to mental health. However, they would want to access services to have their needs accessed or addressed, better said. 30% of the community felt like they're visible minorities. However, their disorders are not necessarily looked at, and they believe that they're impacted, whether it be severe anxiety, severe depression, and other severe mental health. But when we ask the youth in the community, what are the mental health you see? And what are the things that you look at and that you believe the community is impacted just from what, your day-to-day life? And they believe the mental health and the things that they're impacted are depression, just everyday stress based on living and being in the community. They believe a lot of people in the community are impacted by bipolar disorder, ADHD, addiction to drugs, OCD. Funny enough, a lot of people, these youths believe that laziness is a mental health. So they believe a lot of people in the community spend a lot of time idling and kind of just being on the corner, and are impacted by consumerism because they're more focused on looking good than being well. Youth and mentor believe that they're impacted by issues that span racism, discrimination, their identity, and who they are. They believe that they're impacted by the justice system and the generation of negative behavior based on either being certified, based on coming from families that have been popular or live in the community and have given them notoriety, so they're not able to kind of navigate the world based on the label placed upon them because they live in Jane and Finch. They believe that even though they get government funding for programs, they don't necessarily represent their needs. They believe that they're impacted by incarceration, trauma, and the negative stereotypes that are perpetuated through the media, for namely news stations that just want to come when they have a shooting or broadcast them negatively and never show them in a positive light. They believe that there are available resources, but the places that they're comfortable to go, they are comfortable to go are places like Black Creek Community Health Center, based on their flexibility to the programs they offer. They're able to go to their community center depending on what side of the street they live on. They're able to access things through the police, even though the police is a last resort, because they are such an intersection with the police. They normally ask them where could they go for particular services. And lastly, they would probably go to the Boys and Girls Club and or probably even pursue those things through their school.
So today we've revised and acknowledged many issues pertaining mental health in this community, such as respect from the youth, not giving respect to other youth and other people in their community because maybe they don't have respect for themselves, and a lot of people don't have respect for themselves. But other people need to acknowledge that people have different measurements of understanding, knowledge, and experience. And once people learn about that, I think violence will stop, robbing will stop, and maybe other crimes too, to a certain extent. But when it comes to peace, peace can only happen within us. But the only thing we could do is reduce as much as possible to save other lives. And not everybody's willing to teach and give knowledge to the youth and people that need better understanding.
One more thing, it actually helps to show that the youth, their opinion has value. Because not that there's one elder, 2, 3, 4, like it's not just the 4 of you guys' opinion. It's also the youth's opinion. And it shows that their opinions has value to it.
My group and I, we came up with some information regarding racial trauma that Black people have in the community. Also the statistics on fatal encounters that Black men have with police. So far we found really good statistics and information regarding what the community faces, such as anxiety, not wanting to speak to the police. Also the statistics of, in America, 1 in 1,000 Black men have a fatal encounter with the police.
Barriers to some of the services when we look at asking them these things. Barriers, again, being Black, being brown, being who they are. Having a lack of knowledge around what services are offered. They believe race is a big factor. Believe funding to programs where program exists now because something happened, but then they end. Again, identity is always a big thing that's woven and sewn through all of the things that we talk about all the time. And they believe that services are only offered through postal code, similar to food, and not being able to travel or have access to travel to some of these places is a big barrier. What are factors that contribute to some of these things, and how they would create change for themselves in a positive light to kind of unplug and do things that are healthy in their way. The things that they do are exercise, listen to music, they meditate, they smoke, most likely probably not cigarettes, but probably some blunts with some cigarettes. So, I guess they call them, they enjoy that. They enjoy reading, praying, walking, talking, healthy consensual sex, sports and more sports. Researching knowledge and having a greater sense of their identity and who they are. We are around a bunch of talented people who can cook, who enjoy hygiene and cleaning, video games, eating and sleeping and drinking, and just watching, binge watching TV shows just like anybody else, and having the access to travel when they can. But a big part of the program talked about education and the impacts that youths had to education. And when we looked at this subject, youths believe that these institutes, being the education system, normally impacted them systemically, whether it be through their identity again, which comes back up. They felt discriminated against, and they felt some of the practices by the administrations disproportionately impacted them because they were overrepresented when it came to being expelled, suspended, and or kicked out, police being called. And they felt like they spent more time having to defend themselves than rather than being educated. And they feel like policies like the Zero Tolerance and the Safe School Act was a contributing factor to that. 80% of students who were expelled were racialized as a result of the Zero Tolerance Act. And most of the people that were represented that were impacted by Zero Tolerance or Safe School were either indigenous, black and gay students that again were impacted by such such disparities through the educational system, whether it be Peel, Simcoe. Like each school board seems to at some point be students seem to be impacted if you're racialized. So when we look at some of the facts or the impacts that some of these students face within the school system, students felt that they were more on the waiting list. Therefore, they were more disproportionately pushed to take mediocre or generalized courses. And they felt like the guidance counselors never really gave them the opportunity to pursue their academic needs. So they again felt oppressed, and they didn't feel empowered. They felt disenfranchised, and they also felt like their views were never heard. Black students again were grossly represented or overrepresented in the suspensions, and oftentimes having to be pushed out to either alternative school and or just to be felt like they were over-policed due to situations where police were called, where they believe if they were being addressed from a restorative justice approach, these issues could be mitigated and resolved quickly. So as a result of this, our youth in this program didn't benefit from our normal academic process because they were either pushed out, whether it be TDSB, Peel District School Board, Catholic District School Board. They just felt like streaming, which has graduated the narrative from zero tolerance is something that they're impacted by in today's system, and 70% of these students felt like they're easily pushed out due to these policies. As it relates to them engaging and continuing education, yes, they want to because they believe in academic success. But their message is they want people to understand who they are because they feel like they're misunderstood. They would like people to have empathy and to be able to put their shoes on to kind of get to know who they are. And they want to be seen and they want to be heard. And they want to understand that even though they're black and brown youths, that everyone has these type of situations, and it's only because they're black and brown that they're treated differently. And that's the messages from the youth. And the mentors want youth to know that youth, continue to be yourself. We've made mistakes. You're going to continue to make mistakes, but don't let your mistakes or any other person's mistake become yours, and let that mistake become the breaking point. Critically think, examine, and learn from your mistake, whether that be in the classroom, whether that be on the road where you're learning to become more streetwise and understanding the need to navigate your community in a particular way, or the need to understand, to speak for yourself, to navigate some of the systemic barriers you face. So think critically and examine and question everything. I guess my outro would be the messages in the medium, meaning that the messages in the documentary. So we hope that from these scenarios and these skits and these facts, you're able to really understand what we're saying and give the black and brown people a chance.